Hey there, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Lee Sharon, and this is the kitchen at Old Tavern Farm. I have had one of the busiest baking weeks that I've had since I started my little baking business. And next week's not going to be too much easier, but I'm so blessed. I'm so grateful for the work. And this is what I love to do. So I am very blessed and grateful, but I'm very tired. And right now it's very dark and rainy. We have the remains of Hurricane Nicole passing over us right now. And I'm just kind of taking the afternoon off. It's Friday evening or really Friday afternoon. And I just don't feel like cooking. And I don't like to eat out because I don't like all the processed stuff that's in restaurant food anymore. I used to, but the more I learn about, restaurant food and everything that goes in there, even though I was in the industry for a long time, I don't want to eat it. Sorry, restaurant industry. But I have tons of food here on the homestead. So I'm just going to go to my freezer and toss together what I call a homestead hash or a homestead skillet. Out of what I just have on hand. And I just encourage you guys to use what you have on hand. And if you go back all the way to the very beginning of this channel, you will see me saying, use what you have. So that's what I'm doing tonight. And I thought I would show you what I have on hand and what I'm gonna make. It's one of my favorite things. I love a skillet hash or a skillet, casual skillet meal. And I want to share my technique with you. I'm going to start this make-do meal with some local potatoes that come from a farm that is next to the feed mill where we buy our livestock feed. And this is a 20-pound bag, runs me about $9 or $10. These are red potatoes. He grows those every year. So I'm going to start with those, and then I'm going to include some sour cream and some of our frozen homegrown broccoli, our frozen homegrown onion tops, some salt and pepper, our homegrown onions, some cooked salami, some of our rendered bacon fat, and some shredded cheddar cheese. So what I'm going to do with this cooked salami is I'm going to roughly chop it, and fry it in a skillet with this bacon grease. This bacon grease hangs out in the root cellar where it's cold and dark, and this is some that I rendered, 6 months ago, and it still looks great. It smells great too. So that's going to kind of approximate the flavor of bacon, and this cooked salami, when you fry it in a pan, it actually has the texture and the crunch of bacon. It's actually really good. I don't like it plain like this, sort of cold, like a cold cut. It's not my favorite flavor or texture, but it works great when I cook it. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna boil these potatoes and load them up with toppings and have ourselves a make-do meal from the freezer and the pantry. So I took those beautiful red local potatoes and scrubbed them up really well. And I cut them into basically even-sized pieces. And I started my potatoes in cold water. That is really key. Those two things are key to get a very light and fluffy cooked potato. I know all of us have had that dense, gluey, sort of just slimy, icky kind of potatoes that just kind of are super starchy and just not pleasant. But that's because somebody started them off in hot water. And potatoes don't work like pasta and oatmeal and those types of starches. They have to be started in cold water and brought up gently in the temperature so that the potatoes and the water are kind of the same temperature. So that's my trick. I'm going to continue to let these cook for a few more minutes, and then I'm going to drain them and smash them. I test the potato for doneness by just poking a knife into the potato, one of the thicker potatoes, to see how easily it goes through the potato. So these are pretty well ready, totally ready to smash. So I'm going to drain the water, and then I'm going to come back to the stove and I'll show you what we're going to do. Okay, so the potatoes are drained and they're back on the stove, but the heat to this burner is turned off. So I'm just going to take I don't have a potato smasher, so I just use the end of my rolling pin just to break up the cubes of potatoes, and then I'll go back in with a wooden spoon and kind of do a finer job. So basically we are just sort of getting it to this crummy stage, this sort of crumbled stage, and it's still really, really dry. And the heat from the potatoes is basically how we finish this dish. So I just kind of stir it around, and it's like kind of light and fluffy here. I'm just going to add a tiny bit of salt and pepper. And this, at this point, is where we put our cheese in. A little bit. We're going to put about, I don't know, a cup or so. I don't really measure things when I'm cooking. I have to measure so much when I'm baking. When I'm cooking, I just don't care. I just throw it in there. Okay, so about a cup, whatever you like. You can use whatever kind of cheese you like. Whatever you have, right? Okay, so then I'm just going to continue to smash that in there. And then I'm going to switch back to my wooden spoon. And I'm going to add in my sour cream. You can use as much or as little as you want. That's about a cup and a half or so. And sometimes if your potatoes are kind of on the dry side naturally, you can add some milk into here. But these are loaded smashed potatoes. So, and smashed potatoes are a little more rustic than mashed potatoes, but these are still really light and fluffy and are going to be just delicious on this really dark, cold, rainy night. There goes the power. Woo. Then I'm going to take what we've already prepared here in this skillet, and I am simply going to, let me switch spots so you can see. Back here I have our breakfast casserole going for our breakfast with our children and grandchildren tomorrow morning, so I never really stop here. It's like I say I'm tired, I don't feel like cooking, and then I end up making 2 meals instead of just one. That's okay. That's just what we do here. Okay, so then I'm going to take the smashed potato and I'm just going to kind of lay it over the meat and the onions and the broccoli. Kind of like a little bit of a shepherd's pie, but then we're going to go back in and we're going to schmooze it around just a little bit. That's a technical term, by the way, schmooze. Okay. And I'm just going to put all these potatoes in here because, like, who doesn't love creamy, cheesy smashed potatoes? Like, if you don't like creamy, cheesy smashed potatoes, like, you probably on the wrong channel. I'm happy to have you, but we do things real here, man. We use heavy cream. We use bacon fat. We don't use any fake fats. This stuff is terrible for you. Okay. So then I'm just going to take a spatula and I'm going to reach under the ingredients in the skillet and I'm just going to push back. Okay, and then I'm just going to reach under, fold it over, and push so it kind of layers it a little bit. And there's still lots of good stuff. Excuse my arm here. Lots of good stuff underneath there. And so I'm turning it, lifting it and turning it, and moving the potatoes down into all that lovely flavor from the broccoli and the onions and the bacon fat, the rendered bacon fat, and kind of sort of incorporating it that way to sort of just loosen up those potatoes. Okay, so everything in here is pretty hot. So what I'm going to do, and this is kind of what makes it an easy meal, is we're done here. So the way I finish it is I take my cheese. Again, use whatever cheese you have, whatever cheese you like. Use Brie, use Stilton. I'm not sure. Well, it doesn't matter because honestly, these combinations, because they're so out in left field, they're different and they just taste good. And usually whatever you have on hand are flavors and food products that you like. So I'm sure if you have it on hand, you're going to like the flavor. So I encourage you to just try these techniques. Just because honestly, it does not take that long. And then remember these frozen onion tops that we had out of the garden? I'm going to just sort of sprinkle. Now they do kind of get a little bit limp because they've been frozen. So their cell walls are all broken down. But they still have the flavor and it doesn't matter because it's going to be hot. So it'll just be like they're cooked, except for they'll have more flavor because they're, not cooked as long. Okay, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it on the warm burner here, and I'm going to get the lid that goes on this pan and just put the lid on and let it sit until my husband gets home and we're ready to eat. So, hang on. So there we have it. The Homestead skillet. Ta-da! And it's going to sit there and that cheese is going to melt. And then we'll just dish it up. Like I said, this burner is still hot, so there's still heat coming up. And it's now 3:59 in the afternoon. And I'm going to go binge some Alone in Remote Alaska, some Little Alaskan Homeplace, some Elliot Homestead, some of my favorites, Parisienne Farmgirl. I'm going to sit down and binge some YouTube because I do YouTube and I also love watching other people on YouTube. So if you haven't checked out those channels, please check them out and tell them I said hi. And I'm going to go grab some Friday night beverages and put my rear end on the sofa. Thanks you guys so much for visiting. I appreciate all of you so much. And I will catch you next time. Bye-bye.